Good morning and welcome to the premiere of season 2 of the Krewe NFC Roundtable. I am the Packer backer, Brian Robinson. Thank you for joining us. Well, really joining me because everybody else seems to be too busy, but that's okay. We're going to go around the NFC to kind of go over a little bit of the news that's gone on over the summer and kind of get you set for training camp, which basically is in a couple weeks. So football is basically back. But first, we're going to go ahead and do a little overall league things. Unfortunately, they are not all exactly happy. And we're going to start with Baltimore Ravens linebacker Jalen Ferguson, who had passed away June 21st. He was an up-and-comer for the Ravens, talked highly by Coach Harbaugh. He was the unfortunate victim of an overdose of fentanyl and cocaine. Obviously, condolences go out to his family. You never like to hear a story like that. Obviously, we cannot judge what kind of issues or anything that he has had. But obviously, it had to have something to do with, there had to be problems, and it's unfortunate. And I think the league-wide, there's definitely more problems, obviously, that has not been, to the forefront. There's a lot of things that the league could do better. But unfortunately, losing a young kid like this is very sad. And again, our condolences go out to him. And within a 24-hour time span, the Baltimore Ravens did lose another one of their own. Tony Siragusa, the Goose, former player for the Ravens and the Colts, who's a defensive tackle, played 11 years in the league, died suddenly at the age of 55. We still do not know the cause of death. The only thing that has been released is apparently they were at his home performing CPR, medics were, and he had passed away at his home. Goose was also a longtime commentator for, I believe, Fox, on-field reporter. Did a terrific job. He was a great person in the football community. It is a big loss. The Ravens, in a 24-hour time span, lost two of their own, and obviously we send our condolences up to the Baltimore Ravens family, the Siragusa family, and obviously the Ferguson family. Goose will be missed, just like we miss Madden, just like we miss, a lot of these other people that have passed on lately. So we'll move on from there. The NFL also released the findings on Demaryius Thomas. Obviously, as you know, Demaryius Thomas passed away back on December 19th, 2021. He was 33 years old at the time. Terrific receiver for the Broncos. As a matter of fact, I believe he's got a lot of if he doesn't hold the records, he's like second in terms of wide receivers. Very, very terrific player. Won a Super Bowl, made numerous Pro Bowls. They released the findings of his death, and he did die, according to Boston University, of stage 2 CTE from frequent head traumas. He also was involved in a car accident in 2019 where he and two others in his vehicle crashed. The car rolled over. He suffered some head injuries, which after that accident, he was having seizures. So I think it's the combination of hits to the head and obviously the accident. He probably somehow died from a seizure is what we're guessing. But obviously the medical examiners took a look and CTE was definitely present. And CTE is a major problem. A lot of the former NFL players have been fighting to basically get better insurance, better. How do you put it? They want to get taken care of better from the NFL for basically putting their bodies on the line, game in and game out. Right now we're seeing with ALS, with Mongo McMichael. And he made it, loud and clear before he went on the steep decline that the Bears are taking care of him, not the NFL. The NFL could do a lot better. And I know CTE has kind of taken a back seat a little bit, but knowing players that have made their cases vocal with how they're doing, it's sad. It's sad to see some of these players going through all this, and unfortunately, losing a guy like Demaryius Thomas at a very young age shows that it's a serious thing still, and we definitely need, better answers from the NFL on how to go from here. Well, that takes care of the overall NFL league news. I'm sorry it was more sad than happy, but the happiness is around the corner because in a couple of weeks we've got some training camps. So let's go around the NFC and let's take a peek in on some of the news that's going on. And we're actually going to start in the north. All right, we're going to start with the Chicago Bears. The Bears have been making a lot of news this summer, and unfortunate, it's not good one. Right now, the Chicago Bears tally is 3 player arrests this summer. All players that have been signed by the newly minted GM, Ryan Poles. Obviously, now we're starting to get into character issues with the team. If you have not heard, Byron Pringle, their wide receiver that they picked up on free agent from the Chiefs, I believe he was on, got dinged for reckless driving. He was actually driving a car without a license with his child in it doing donuts in a parking lot or something like that. So he was arrested for that. Then you have linebacker Matt Adams, who was arrested for misdemeanor gun possession. And then the latest victim is David Moore, who was recently picked up on drug and weapons charges after he passed out in a Taco Bell drive-thru in Texas, I believe. Obviously, all 3 of these aren't big names, but out of the 3, you've got Byron Pringle and David Moore, who are wide receivers, who were picked up to basically help Justin Fields. David Moore actually had a decent season for Seattle last year. He was on the up and up, kind of looking for that, player that's going to help as the Bears try to rebuild from what, Ryan Pace did to them. It's sad, but I think they will rebound. I believe highly in their head coach, Matt Eberflus. I really do think he's going to have these guys ready. He's going to have these guys wanting to play hard, work hard. It's just an unfortunate summer. Hopefully this gets addressed. Hopefully we don't see any more of this for the Bears, or basically for any team. It's never good, and it brings a lot of trouble and morale problems. Hopefully this will get solved. The Bears continue to make news on their stadium front. But now, as you can see in the graphic, I wanted to put the David Moore thing, but we have the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. Now, on this show, we never get political. We just don't. We talk sports. We talk football. This is a political ploy from Mayor Lightfoot. The Bears have, if you have not heard, have purchased property out in Arlington Heights, which is a suburb. There's an old racetrack that had just shut down, and it's close to about 400 acres of property that they are investigating, or they're not investigating. They're looking into buying up the property and building a brand new stadium along with like a entertainment district, kind of like what Robert Kraft has done at Gillette Stadium, which, in my opinion, this would serve the Bears super well because their current situation at Soldier Field honestly isn't great. Some fans love the fact Soldier Field's still there. It's historical. It's a landmark. And you really can't change it up. The mayor has sat down with others on what it would cost to, again, redo Soldier Field. What they're going to do is they're going to expand seating, add synthetic turf, more suites, restaurants, expanding the concourses, and they want to build a hotel and sports book on the property. Now this is what, back in the day, this is what they were trying to fight for in the first place, a dome. They want to dome up Soldier Field. Look, I get it. I get Lightfoot really wants the team to stay in Chicago. But who wouldn't when the city of Chicago is actually making money on all the stadium stuff because the city owns the stadium. The Parks Department owns the stadium. The Bears don't own the stadium. The Bears do not see that revenue. Hence, why wouldn't they go to Arlington Heights? I think it would be totally idiotic if they work with Lightfoot and in some capacity this deal gets done and the Bears stay at Soldier Field. I think a lot of Bears fans at this point will be very disappointed. Now, theoretically, Lightfoot can still do this and the Bears could still leave. But does that open the door? Hint, hint. The NFL wants to expand. You look at New York, they've got 2 teams. You look at LA, they've got 2 teams. Think about it. Could Chicago, if the Bears moved to Arlington Heights, could the city of Chicago say, hey, we have a golden opportunity here. Let's put another team and let's let them use Soldier Field. Could happen, but we don't know. Usually they say it's a Bears town. It's always going to be a Bears town. It could change. Moving on in the division, we'll go to the Packers. And if you haven't seen the latest Aaron Rodgers drama news, let's just put this up here. So apparently Aaron's got a tattoo. Apparently this has been in the planning and in the works for months. And if somebody can tell me what the hell this is, I would love to know. But what he has said is that it has different meanings for the different parts of the tattoo. I mean, to me, it just looks like it's completely from outer space. I mean, kind of like his relationships with women lately. I mean, I'll be perfectly honest. I have no clue what to make of this besides it almost looks like he took an ink pen and drew it himself. Just saying. So as that drama continues, and everybody was wondering, well, what about his new receivers and stuff like that? Well, he did show up to Green Bay for like a 3-day OTA or something like that, and did work with them a little bit and talked with them a little bit. The thing that's going to interest the league is he going to truly work with these receivers come training camp? And will he be out on the field on preseason games to, grow the cohesiveness with these guys, especially the young guys? Losing Davante Adams is a big, big, big deal. And in order for you to be top notch, not only in your division but your conference, and you're going for a Super Bowl, you need to be completely cohesive with your receivers. This is going to be an important year for the Packers. They took their chances. They did not try hard enough, in my opinion, to keep Davante Adams. They could have. I think they were more worried about keeping Aaron Rodgers and paying him paying him $50 million a year. In my opinion, as a Packers fan, I'm sitting here going, okay, well, let's see what we got. We pick up Sammy Watkins. We make Allen Lazard our number one. Is he really a number one? We don't know. But you're going to have to figure it out. and you're going to have to figure it out quickly. Aaron has a few years left. If they don't do it, as everybody has been saying, and I agree, I'm in the agreement with this. How can one organization have 30 years worth of legendary quarterback play and have 2 Super Bowls to show for it? It's time for the Packers. And it's time that then this year is the start. So getting off of that, here, since we're preluding training camp, I do have training camp dates. So for everybody who's interested, the Chicago Bears open training camp on July 23rd with the rookies, and then the veterans show up on July 26th. Green Bay, you can go see the rookies July 22nd, and the veterans will be there on July 26th. Up in Detroit, their rookie camp starts 7/23, or July 23rd, when the veterans show up July 26th. And up in Minnesota, it is rookies show up on the 24th, and the veterans show up on the 26th. See, told you guys, we're close to football. Now, as we move along the league, we're going to head over to the NFC East. All right, the NFC East hasn't really produced a lot of news, but one team is basically big in the news, and it's not because of the players, it's because of the owner. Dan Snyder, very controversial owner of the Washington Commanders, has done basically a lot wrong. And we still don't know what exactly he's done wrong because nothing is being released. But yet, somehow, John Gruden gets fired because of emails going to said team that we're looking at right now. It's weird. It's very weird. It's weird when you have the House Oversight Committee, the U.S. government, investigating this, trying to figure out what is going on. The NFL has been trying for years to figure out Dan Snyder's operation here. When you're talking about the way they treated the cheerleaders, to female employees, to, even players. It's just a poorly run organization. And obviously, their record the last, 15 years has shown it. Barely making the playoffs a couple times, going through coaches like hotcakes, can't seem to get it right. Honestly, their stadium, which they thought was a great move when they built that new stadium, it's fallen apart, just like the team. Dan Snyder has recently offered to testify, finally. He's offered to testify, but remotely. He does not want to show up in person, but he wants to do it remotely and testify before the House Oversight Committee. This will be very interesting, just for the simple fact that I do believe that the other NFL owners, I think they do have it out to, if it came to a vote, to vote this guy out to sell the team, that he'd be voted out. I think Washington's in a very, let's just put it, dangerous situation, fragile situation. A lot of the offseason moves the last couple of years, they're really trying to get back in the good graces. And I think Coach Ron Rivera has done as good of a job as you possibly could under the circumstances. With Rivera, you're going to get a good defense. But he's also a very good game planner, game manager. Obviously, to take Carolina to the Super Bowl, you've got to be a halfway decent coach to do that. Sticking with the organization and sticking with the picks, obviously they acquired Carson Wentz, who last quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts last year. And we all know what happened last year. Wentz basically did the bare minimum to win games. It was basically his running back that carried the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz, at one time, basically was an MVP. Had a hell of a year. The year the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. He didn't win the Super Bowl. That was Nick Foles. Carson Wentz, basically, from that injury, has not been the same, and which is unfortunate because he was actually a very good quarterback that year. The problem with Carson Wentz is his attitude, and that's coming from both Philadelphia and Indianapolis personnel. You rub teams the wrong way, they'll get rid of you in a heartbeat. Carson Wentz, could he salvage his career in Washington? Could he do great for Ron Rivera? I think so. I think there's a shot. But do I think it's really does this put Washington in a consideration to being a good team this year? My money in that division is going to go on Philadelphia or Dallas. I mean, the Giants are still too far away. I think Washington's better with Carson Wentz possibly. I just don't see it. I just don't see how they can go from cellar to let's even go second place. Because I don't think anybody in that division is going to touch Dallas or Philadelphia. And in my opinion, that's a coin flip between those two teams. But obviously, way too early to tell because we haven't even hit training camp. Speaking of training camp, let's go over the training camp dates for the NFC East. Dallas, if you're a Dallas fan, June or July 26th. Is when rookies and veterans. So the team, it is a team mandate on July 26th to be in camp. For the New York Giants, it's the July 19th for rookie camp and July 26th for the veterans to show up. Both Philadelphia and Washington both have the same dates, report date of July 26th for both rookies and veterans. I don't know if exactly having the rookies show up earlier makes a difference, but obviously some teams look at that and think so, and giving the veterans another, I guess, close to a week to get their bearings right for the game to play. But we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see on some of these teams. I'm going to keep these dates down, and we'll kind of see how these teams work. Well, let's make our way south to the NFC South, because we've got some good news for there too. All right. Well, if you haven't heard yet, Baker Mayfield is a Carolina Panther. Yes, Cleveland finally traded Baker Mayfield out of Cleveland because they want to keep the guy that can't keep it in his pants. But that's all I'm going to say on that. Baker Mayfield. I commend him for toughing out last season. He is a tough guy. But the problem is, well, as you saw in Cleveland, the maturity thing. Never really took the blame for things. It was always, let's blame Odell Beckham Jr., let's blame this and that. He never took it upon himself, even though, as you see in this graphic, as I go, who's better? Sam Darnold, who is on the Carolina Panthers, even though it shows a Jets jersey there. Sam Darnold, it was their starting quarterback last year. He is a number one pick. Or is it Baker Mayfield, who was not the number one pick? Now think about this for a second. Both these quarterbacks are in the same draft. Obviously, Sam Darnold was number one, went to the Jets. But I do believe Baker Mayfield was the sixth quarterback picked in that draft. Their offensive coordinator in Carolina, when he pre-ranked these quarterbacks when he was head coach of the Giants, and I believe his name's Bob McAdoo, he had Sam Darnold as the number 1 rated quarterback. He had Baker Mayfield as his number 6 quarterback on his draft board. But now here we go. We are in Carolina. Bob McAdoo's the offensive coordinator, and he's got these 2 quarterbacks. So who is better? Both of them have thrown basically the same amount of interceptions, in which if you do look, it is the most interceptions thrown by quarterbacks in the league during a 4-year span. I believe it's 58. Who could possibly be better out of these 2? Who has the better upside? Who could make this Carolina team better? And may I say, there's a Carolina team that has a good defense. And I believe in metrics, they were the number 2 defense in the league last year. They just didn't have offense. They had injury problems from Christian McCaffrey to Robbie Anderson. Obviously, Sam Darnold did not play well. So basically, what is going to happen here? Here's my opinion. Here's my take on this. Baker Mayfield, I believe, is the better quarterback, and it's only for this reason. Because he's been to the playoffs, and he's won a playoff game. He's taken a team to the playoffs. Whether or not his attitude is the best, whether or not he's a quote-unquote leader or not, he took a team to the playoffs. But that doesn't discount Sam Darnold. I give Sam Darnold a break here. When you have Adam Gase as your head coach, that's a very bad thing. And I think Adam Gase did a lot wrong with Sam Darnold. And I see where Carolina went with acquiring him. They figured he's a number 1 pick. He's talented. He does have some talent. But here's the other question. When one guy is making $18.5 million this season, and the other guy is only making 1/3 of his salary and 2/3 are being paid by Cleveland, who are you going to go with in this situation? Yeah, they gave up a 5th-round draft pick, but who are you going to go with? Are you going to go with the guy that you've already got money invested in? Or are you going to sit that guy in the pine and let the guy that has already proven take a team to the playoffs as your quarterback? It'll be interesting in Carolina. Carolina's defense gets back a couple guys that were hurt, even though they were good. They did address some of their offensive line issues, and you've got Christian McCaffrey and Robbie Anderson coming back with full health. Could they idealistically be a quarterback away? Maybe. I still don't see them overtaking Tampa, but could they give Tampa some problems? Possibly. But I'm not going to say it's going to guarantee happen. I think Tampa will end up running away with the division because there just isn't another. I mean, besides the Saints and their defense, and we still got to see what the Saints are going to be all about with Jameis Winston as their quarterback and with the new coaching staff. When you lose Sean Payton, it's going to make a big difference. Speaking of Tampa, this guy, which I my personal opinion is the best tight end of all time, Rob Gronkowski, retired on the 21st of June. Leaves the Buccaneers with a interesting question. Can Cameron Brate do the job? Now, if you ask who usually captains this show, Mike Sidoris, he will say Cameron Brate's a very serviceable tight end. And I agree with him. I think he's great. But here's a little interesting tidbit on the Gronkowski retirement. Mike Evans, right when the retirement announcement was quoted as saying, he's done, he's retired, he's not coming back. Well, then he backtracked that statement. He backtracks that statement. We know, Mike, and I did say Tampa runs the South, and you got it. I'm glad you're listening. I'm glad you're at least following, buddy. Safe travels back. I think there is a chance that he comes back. I think Mike Evans basically put it by saying he could be pulling a Brady. You know, Brady was only retired for 40 days. Obviously, something was amuck with the coach. Things changed. Brady came back. Do I see a reunion? I could see it. I personally don't think he's retired. I think he's just saying he's retired. He's going to evaluate his situation. I personally think he doesn't go to any other team besides Tampa. And at some point, he will reunite. I think you'll see Gronk in that Bucs uniform this season at some point. Getting to training camp is going to be interesting because if Gronk does come back, at least you can get the cohesiveness. And speaking of training camp, Tampa's training camp starts on the 23rd for rookies and 26th for veterans. Carolina, they're doing an all-out rookies and veterans all report on the 26th of July. The Saints do the 19th for the rookies and the 26th for the veterans, and the Atlanta Falcons, which we don't really want to mention because they're horrible. Yeah, they're horrible. And if Mike Sidoris was on the show, he would really be enthusiastic saying they're horrible. But the Atlanta Falcons, the 19th, the rookies come in, and on the 26th, Marcus Mariota makes his debut for the veterans. That's laughable, isn't it? Well, there's only one more division to go to. Let's go out west. Well, Jimmy G. Interesting situation here. So Jimmy G has been cleared to throw and wants to start practicing, but the 49ers are kind of just like saying, no, not really. We don't want you to come in. This is what's so interesting about the 49ers is that they have basically said, we are going all in on Trey Lance. Without Trey Lance really playing a lot of meaningful snaps. Granted, yes, he did play when Garoppolo was hurt. He looked okay, but it wasn't anything like super impressive. And then when you're hearing some of the comments in the offseason about how Trey Lance is not looking very good, it kind of gets you to wonder, why are they even bothering with Trey Lance this year? Why not give Jimmy G the starting quarterback job and run it back? Especially when you made the playoffs and made the Packers look bad and, went to I believe they went to the NFC Championship game, if I remember. I don't know. It's an interesting situation. You also got Deebo Samuel, who is, I guess, going to hold out. And I really don't know why. I mean, I get it. He's worth the money. But you're still under contract. I mean, you could theoretically sit out for the first 8 games, not get paid to make your statement, but you still got to go and show up and play. I think this Niners team's still good. They've got a lot of great pieces. I just think with the quarterback situation, I'm not sold on Trey Lance, and I think it's a mistake that they're not even considering Jimmy G to start again. But there is one team that has stuck its neck out and said, hey, we're interested. We're interested in taking Jimmy G. What's it going to take? It was reported that Garoppolo's agent has fielded a call from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to acquire Jimmy Garoppolo to basically be the next starting quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers once the GOAT retires or he's done. That would be very interesting. As you know, Jimmy G was Brady's backup in New England. Learned a lot from the GOAT. Obviously, he isn't putting up the numbers like the GOAT, but he still manages the game, and that's important. You can win ball games with a game manager. You have a good run game, you have a game manager, you have a great tight end. What's not to like? I see where Tampa's going. Tampa wants sustainability on their team. Hopefully, if Tampa gets that chance, they'll take them. And honestly, this will be a big mistake for any other team in this league, like the Atlantas, like possibly New Orleans, like Seattle. You know, teams that don't have a proven quarterback. Pittsburgh even. Because we don't know what Trubisky or the guy Pickett or that they drafted is going to be any good. There's so many teams that have an unproven quarterback. But yet, Jimmy G is a proven quarterback. Granted, injury problems. Yes, I get it. But you can't deny talent. And he's talented. And I think if Tampa really wants him, they'll get this deal done. And honestly, it could be a great thing, especially if, for some strange reason, the GOAT goes down with an injury. And this is a year that you're stacked and you're ready to dethrone the Rams. They're going to need a guy. Well, here's your guy right here, Jimmy G. But we'll see what Debo does. Debo's an interesting situation too. I just don't see that getting resolved this year. I just think the Niners are going to stand pat. They're going to tell him, you can hold out. You're just not getting paid. But just remember, you got 8 weeks, and then you have to show up. So we'll see what happens. Moving on to other things in the NFC West, Seattle. This is an interesting situation in Seattle. I personally think Seattle should have tried a lot harder to get Baker Mayfield. I think that would have solved a lot of the problems that they're having with DK Metcalf. It would have brought a proven quarterback in there that could easily run the same kind of a system that Russell Wilson did. It's just interesting that they're standing pat. But I guess when you're trusting Pete Carroll, it's going to be one of those 2-year things. Even though Pete Carroll was the one who, when they traded for Matt Flynn, which Matt Flynn was a decent backup for the Packers, had a couple great games when Rodgers was hurt, and they signed him to be their starting quarterback. But they also drafted Russell Wilson. And right then and there, Russell Wilson proved it out of training camp, started game 1, and Matt Flynn never saw the field. Got a lot of money, but never saw the field. So it'll be interesting to see. I want to get this comment up here. Getting back to the whole, Jimmy Garoppolo thing. Mike says, Bucks coach had reportedly said Jimmy had a better deep ball, he'd be a Buck already. He's 2 yards away from 2 Super Bowls. I get it. I definitely get it, and I definitely agree. I just think, Mike, with your team, you're basically looking at 1 year. Because unless I'm reading the tea leaves wrong, I don't think Brady lasts another season in Tampa. This will be his swan song. That's why I think Gronk will come back. That's why I think this is the year if they're going to do it, they're going to do it right, and they're going to make the run. Anyways, back to Seattle. It'll be interesting to see how Seattle does. And you know what? That's kind of funny that you say that. Maybe Seattle should get Kyle Trask. Maybe they believe in him. Yeah, that's funny. So it'll be interesting with Seattle. Will DK stay? Will the Seahawks give DK what he wants to stay? I think there's a little more turmoil, but Pete Carroll has already proven it once. Guy, I think at this point you got to give him the benefit of the doubt and you got to let him do his thing. Maybe he can resurrect this team within 2 years and they'll be good again. Who knows? We'll see. And obviously we're on Kyler Murray watch with the Arizona Cardinals because obviously Kyler Murray's unhappy that he's not making as much money as the Rodgers or as the Mahomes and stuff like that. But honestly, Kyler Murray has done nothing. So how's that going to work? We'll see. Even though the Cardinals organization has said that they're confident a deal will get done and Kyler is their quarterback moving forward. Seeing is believing. Prove it. Do I think he's worth $50 million a year? Absolutely not. I think Kyler's going to have to come off his high horse, and he's either going to have to suck it up and play this year and prove that he's a great quarterback. Let it be known that he's got all the chances in the world with this team. He's got talent around him. He's just now got to stay on the field, and he's got to prove it. And that's a good comment by Mike. And I get it. Yes, he is the face of Seattle. The problem is, in my opinion, if the guy's not happy, he's not going to want to show up to play. He's not going to give his best. He'll go somewhere else. And I know with Seattle and Pete Carroll, Carroll's not honestly afraid to cut somebody. He's not afraid to just let somebody go. He's always made rash decisions, and most of the time it's worked out for him. So we'll see on that. But yes, you are right. He is the face of Seattle. And there is the silver lining right there. Thank you, Mike, for that comment. Yes, he's worth whatever Major League Baseball is willing to give him. Oh, the days of the two-sport athlete, what I would give to see like a Russell Wilson or a Kyler Murray to play baseball, just to see what they had. That'd be interesting. So for the West, here's training camp dates. We got the Arizona Cardinals starts their camp with the rookies reporting on the 21st and veterans reporting on the 26th. The Rams report on the 23rd for rookies, which they probably don't have very many, to be perfectly honest. And their veterans show up the same day. So that's probably why they're doing that, in my opinion. San Francisco and Seattle are on the same date, same page. They will start camp on the 26th with both rookies and veterans reporting at the same time. So guess what, guys? Again, we're a couple weeks away from being able to really talk about football. And it's going to be very interesting to see how training camp goes with some of these teams, especially with the quarterback competitions and stuff like that. But we've got one more thing I want to go over, and that is there are some players still out there. Yes, the free agency tag is back. And let's put it this way. We do have some free agents. Now, NFL.com had a list at the beginning of the offseason with the best free agents available, according to many different agencies that report on this stuff. As of now, there are 13 players that are still available to pick up. So I'm going to go through this list. I'm going to read what they say, and I don't know. We'll see. We see what teams gets who. But we're going to start with who the top ranked free agent available, and that is the guy by the name of Odell Beckham Jr. And it says here, it makes sense for Beckham to stay in Los Angeles and rehab with the Rams after tearing his ACL in the Super Bowl. If I was an opposing general manager, though, I'd offer Beckham a strong long-term deal with guaranteed money now because it would pay off in years 2 and 3. Talents like Beckham aren't often available. We've had numerous discussions on this very show about Odell Beckham Jr. he's basically known for the one catch, right? However, look at what he did with LA last year in the limited amount of games he played, including the Super Bowl. He was a target. He scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl, and it was a damn shame that he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl, because I honestly think he was due for a big game. And I think LA would have possibly blown the doors off of Cincinnati had that injury not happened. There are teams that are looking for wide receivers, but an injured wide receiver, a guy that may not do much this year, that's a great question. There's a team, the team in Green Bay, they could use another receiver, a good one. Problem is with an ACL injury, and especially when you've had multiple ACL injuries, it does not work too well in the cold. That could be a problem. The whole thing about him staying in Los Angeles, I think you'd have a muck of receivers if he were to stay, and I honestly think the Rams can't pay him much. In my opinion, while I agree if somebody were to give him a longer-term contract, he'd be more productive in years 2 and 3. I get it. But I don't know if that's actually going to work right now. I think people want to see the rehab and see what happens. I think he'll be a midseason pickup to a team who's poised for a run, and we'll see what happens. Moving on, his offensive tackle, Dwayne Brown. He was ranked number 14 this year, and he is 37 years old. Now, that's kind of old, but he could still be a serviceable offensive tackle. He solved the Seahawks left tackle problem in 2017. He had his worst year with Seattle last season before hitting free agency. He'll turn 37 before the 22 campaign kicks off. He's not going to command the top tier money, but it could be worth a shot for a team that's missing a piece of the line. Give him a 1-year veteran contract. See what happens. And we go to Trey Flowers, defensive end. He's 29 years of age. He's been unable to stay healthy the last 2 seasons, but he has a per football focus grade of over 80 in every season between 2017 and 2020, making him one of the most consistent defensive linemen in football. If he's put in the right scheme, he might have a lot of good football left in him, at least a few years. It's worth a shot for a team that may be missing a piece on the defensive line. Center, J.C. Tretter, 31 years of age. He's what they call a stalwart center, barely practiced all season because of knee and ankle injuries, but you wouldn't have known it after he logged 1,000-plus quality snaps for the 5th straight year. He's unquestionably still an above-average starter, which is not easy to find. I'm honestly shocked that he's still on the market. I know he was a Packer at one point, and he played very well at center when needed. I think this is going to be a guy that will get a call very soon on a 1-year prove it, and he'll prove it. I believe he will. I think he could work well with a team that's got a struggle on the line. Now we go to Will Fuller. So much talent, but could never stay on the field. He missed time last season due to a PED suspension, a personal issue, and a broken finger. Yes, they're red flags, but this guy is fast. Will take the top off of a defense. Again, this could be another 1-year prove it for a team that's looking for that one guy to take the top off the defense. Could be a perfect move for the Packers. Could be a perfect move for a team that's basically on the cusp of making a run. Be interesting to see if he gets a call. Well, again, I think a lot of these guys are going to be on a 1-year prove it once they get picked up. Offensive tackle Eric Fisher. He took his first snaps as a Colt just 8 months from tearing his Achilles and had his worst season since his rookie year. That can make him a better value this offseason, and I do agree. Guy's only 31 years old. You got to give this guy a shot because he was a great offensive tackle for the Colts. yeah, injury-plagued season, and he wasn't right. I think if somebody gives him a 1 year prove it, he's definitely going to prove it. Again, look for the teams with holes in the line. I think he'll get picked up. Here's another interesting one. Julio Jones, 33 years old. Everybody thought Julio was this amazingly awesome receiver back in the day. Last 2 seasons, no bueno. No bueno. As it says here, there were moments in Tennessee where Julio looked like Julio Jones, but he was only healthy enough to catch 31 passes 1 year after catching just 51 the year before for the Falcons. He has barely practiced in the last 3 years, so it's a leap of faith, but the upside for a high-level number 2 receiver production is still there if his body is right. I don't disagree. This is the problem that I would have signing a 33-year-old receiver with injury problems that couldn't stay on the field. Is that if you're going to sign a guy like that, you better damn well know that you got to keep the guy healthy. He can't be out there all the time. Maybe he's going to be a guy like a Randall Cobb where he's only coming in on third down specialty plays, or you're only putting him in on short routes. And he's a bigger body. But again, the guy can't just stay healthy. He was a great talent. I'll tell you what. If I'm putting money on it, I think he goes to Indianapolis and reunites with Matt Ryan. Indianapolis could use another receiver, obviously, to get that offense humming. And you don't have very many years left of Matt Ryan. You just need to make sure that Matt Ryan's got enough to do what he does. Anthony Barr is an outside linebacker, age 30. He's still on the market. He's got the game-changing splash plays, but again, he's aging. They're starting to go. But Barr is a rare linebacker who can rush, tackle, and cover, barely leaving the field. So obviously you're talking about a guy who's always staying on the field and gives great production. Again, team that's got some holes on defense, I see him getting picked up on a 1 year. Prove it. Sheldon Richardson, defensive tackle, age 31. I think this guy could have a home somewhere, but it's got to be the right. It's got to be the right place. He's kind of a guy that good sometimes, good, but you look at the age 31, he's still got a couple years left. Again, 1 year, prove it. Then you've got probably the best player in the playoff game versus the Rams that the Tampa Bay Bucks had was Mr. Sue, defensive lineman. Now he's 35. He does show up in big moments still. Yes, he's old. And I'm honestly kind of surprised that the Buccaneers did not sign him back. I would have given him another year and run it back with him. The way he played in the game against the Rams, he was their best defensive player. I mean, they still ended up losing, but you want to talk about a guy who threw it all out there? It was him. Now, I know he's not been exactly the classiest of guys, especially when he was with Detroit, but the guy's a great player, and he might still have a little bit in him. And if I'm Tampa, I'd run it back with him one more season. We'll see what happens. Kevin King, I know a little bit about this guy. He's still on the market, 27 years of age, cornerback, I should say, formerly of the Packers. Yes, this is the same Kevin King that blew 2 plays in the NFC Championship game against Tampa Bay. I was livid as a fan. And honestly, it wasn't the first time he really blew coverages. He was not great. I kind of, after that season, I kind of wanted him gone. But last year, he played very well until he got hurt, because he was actually producing and playing really good football. I'm honestly, in a way, shocked that the Packers did not offer up another year to him and to see how it went. But he's still out there. So he could be a good asset to the right team. But the Packers defensive coordinator, Joe Barry, put him in great positions, and it showed when he was on the field. So it'll be interesting to see. Then you got Deontay Hightower, 32-year-old linebacker. He took a year off because of COVID. He was basically played with a little rustiness last year, but his bigger issue is how the game has changed to target players like him in pass coverage. But his leadership and intelligence are both off the charts. Why wouldn't you want a guy like that on your team? I'm still wondering why he's still out there. Again, a team that needs a guy, a 1 year prove it. A lot of these guys, I think, all these guys here are going to need to be a 1 year prove it. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. gets the longer term contract, but that's out of all these guys, that's the only one I see. And finally, last out of these 13 is Riley Reif, offensive tackle, formerly of the Bengals. And obviously, as you saw the Bengals season last year towards the end, they were the human turnstile of offensive lines. And that's because you have a guy that got hurt, and he was good. Obviously, he's still on the market. He's 33 years old. Again, 1 year, veteran minimum, prove it, see where he's at. Maybe he gets on a team like that's trying to either A, rebuild, or B, they just have a missing piece and they need it. Yes, you have too old for a 1 year prove. I get it. There are guys that seem to be very old on here. There's a lot of age 30s guys, especially with the guy that was 37 years old. What was his name? Dwayne Brown. I get it. But a lot of these guys could still give you valuable snaps. And if you can get a guy that has played in the league and can give snaps, and especially teach the younger guys, if they have drafted younger guys, you give them the veteran minimum, prove it. You never know. You could find lightning in a bottle and it could work. So those are the 13 that the NFL has produced as the remaining guys in free agency. So we will see what happens and in the next couple weeks, maybe even longer. Well, listen, I am very glad season 2 has started here with the crew. We have quite a lot planned this season. Obviously, our Pick 6 is going to be back with a full season of Pick 6, and we're going to try to dethrone the one, the only Jerry Christian from his title because he needs to be dethroned. Obviously, we are missing the other individuals, Mike Sidoris, Mike Stout, Jerry Christian, Anderson Hanna. Hopefully all is well with them. You will see all these guys in the upcoming weeks. I'm just glad I didn't, derail the ship, so to speak, and was able to get on here after my brief absence. But thank you for tuning in to the Krewe NFC Roundtable. Look for us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And don't forget, be interactive on our Facebook page. We love the questions. We'll give you the answers or our opinions. Our opinions may not be right, but hey, at least we're engaging, and it's always great to talk ball. On that note, have a great rest of your Sunday, and we look forward to seeing you next Sunday at 9 a.m. Central here on the Krewe NFC Roundtable. So long.